Tonight, cops say there was no fall, there was no accident, that his new bride pushed him to his death.
On June 7, 2011, 19-year-old Amber Hilberling pushed her husband Josh out of the 25th-story window of the University Club Tower apartment complex in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That much is indisputable. Josh fell 17 floors before his body crashed face down into the roof of the 8th-floor parking garage. Minutes later, his wife, 7 months pregnant at the time, emerged screaming onto the rooftop, ran to the broken body and turned it over. She was still cradling it in her arms, crying hysterically, when the paramedics arrived. "Fix him," Amber begged them. "Oh please, fix him, fix him, fix him." But Josh Hilberling, the 23-year-old Air Force veteran, was beyond fixing. Josh Hilberling was dead. The question was this a tragic accident? Or was it willful murder? But before continuing, we welcome you to our channel The Murder Files, where we discuss the most breathtaking, terrifying and strange true crime stories, and also we would like to send our sympathies to loved ones and families who fell victim to the obnoxious crimes presented on this channel. Amber disclosed this to the authorities. She claimed that Josh and she had gotten into a fight during which Josh threw a laundry basket at her. Instead of striking its intended mark, the basket cracked the apartment's enormous picture window. Josh then took hold of her and began shaking her. He ignored her pleas for him to stop. "I was pregnant and he didn't care," she told investigators. She had pushed out at him out of desperation to get away and worry for her safety and the protection of her pregnant child. Her main goal was to convince Josh to let go of her, but the unexpected push caused him to stumble backward and hit the already damaged window pane. As Amber watched in horror, he plunged through it and into the space beyond. "It had all happened in the blink of an eye," she said. But the authorities doubted this tragic story. But as investigators started comparing it to the evidence, they found certain things that just didn't match up. For instance, how could the hugely pregnant Amber muster the power to shove her 6'6" husband so hard that he was helpless to prevent himself from falling through the window? And why was there no evidence of a battle inside the flat if they had been involved in a fierce brawl? Detectives believed the solution to be simple. They thought Josh Hilberling had been surprised by the shove and had not anticipated it to happen. Further investigation provided validation for this theory. It turned out that Amber had told her grandmother a different story to the one she'd told the police. She'd admitted that she'd barged into Josh while he was hunched over and messing with the TV.
"You deserve to pray." "Who am I praying to, Josh?" "Josh hates me. I'm not even going to be able to meet him in heaven anymore because he just hates me. I killed him."
As you can see in the video, Amber admits killing Joshua but is soon hushed by her grandmother. They both do not realize that they are being recorded and that Amber just confessed to the crime.
Stop talking like that. What kind of person am I? You're a loving person that has been abused by Josh just as well. No, I'm a horrible person who could do that. Who could do that? Push my husband and make him fall out the window.
We can also see that Amber here is confessing, but her grandmother is encouraging her make a story that she was a victim and was abused by Josh and that she fought back. The question was, why? Why would a recently married young woman, just months away from the birth of her first child, suddenly decide to kill her husband? And the answer to that question was not long in coming. The Hilberlings may have been married for less than a year, but the honeymoon was well and truly over. The relationship between the pair was tumultuous and marred by domestic abuse and drug usage. Amber, a frequent methamphetamine addict, had previously attacked her husband by hurling a light at him with such force that it required multiple stitches. Josh had applied for a protective order against his wife following that incident. At the same time, his parents had predicted something that would turn out to be terrifyingly true. They had warned their son that if the couple didn't end, Amber would kill him. That Josh was no angel either. He, too, had a problem with drugs and had been released from the military because of it. And he was controlling towards Amber, forbidding her from communicating with anyone when he wasn't around and smashing her cell phone to prevent her from doing so. He'd also used violence against his young wife. Despite the abusive nature of the relationship, Amber said that she was still much in love with Josh. When she discovered she was expecting his child, she was ecstatic. Perhaps she believed that being pregnant would help them have a more cordial relationship. It didn't, primarily because Amber continued using drugs even as her belly grew larger with the new life she was carrying. Josh was naturally worried about the potential harm this could have to his unborn child. When Amber disregarded his requests to stop using, he became enraged. He eventually informed his father that he was divorcing Amber, would be asking for custody of the child, and that he was leaving Amber. Josh actually called his father the day before he passed away and requested him to pick him up at the apartment, telling him that he had finally made up his mind to divorce his wife. When his son's shift was up, Patrick Hilberling, who was at work, promised to pick him up. He never had the opportunity. Before the day was through, he'd received the news that every parent dreads. On June 8, 2011, the Tulsa police took Amber Hilberling into custody and charged her with the murder of her husband. After being quickly granted bond, Amber gave birth to a healthy child named Levi a few months later. But after she tested positive for drugs twice and repeatedly neglected to keep her ankle bracelet tracking device charged, her bail was revoked within 6 months. Those were not the only missteps she made in the lead up to her trial. For starters, there was the man she chose to defend her. Family friends Jason Elias and his offer of assistance were gladly appreciated. But since Elias had never previously tried a criminal case, it was soon obvious that he was in over his head. Amber's parents pushed her to terminate him once they realized this, but she resisted, stating that she didn't want to harm his feelings. That would end up being a costly mistake. Elias was later disbarred for several instances of misconduct, including inappropriate sexual advances towards a minor. Then there was the potential plea agreement. Amber may accept a sentence of just 5 years in prison if she entered a guilty plea to a less serious offense. She would have most likely been expelled in 3, with good behavior. Amber declined it nevertheless, and her lawyer did little to convince her to change her careless course of action. Perhaps she believed that because she was the mother of a young kid, the jury would believe her claim of self-defense and would be lenient with her. They failed too. After a trial lasting 1 week, the jury deliberated for just 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict on the charge of second-degree murder. On April 23, 2013, Amber was sentenced to 25 years behind bars.
That's right, Justin and Marla. It took the jury just about 3 hours to come down with that verdict. That verdict, as you just named, was 25 years. That's the recommendation for Amber Hilberling.
Amber Hilberling was sent to serve her sentence at Mabel Bassett Correctional Center in McLeod, Oklahoma. She would remain there for just over 3 years. On October 25, 2016, Amber was found hanging by the neck from a bunk bed in her cell. Prison staff made a desperate attempt to revive her using CPR, but she was pronounced dead at the scene 15 minutes later.
The Department of Correction told me today that Hilberling was pronounced dead in her cell yesterday afternoon at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center.
An autopsy would confirm that she had died from asphyxia due to hanging, in what was believed to be a suicide. That same autopsy would reveal that she died with methamphetamine in her system, indicating that she had continued using behind bars. It was a tragic end to a short life beset by tragedy.